gentlemen, the next panel is again controversial, preparing for net zero. Now this is going to be moderated by Dr. John Kokarakis, who, by the way, I've known for a long time, and he's one of my mentors, and a lot of the things which I discuss or views which I express, it's because I just listen to this guy here. He knows what he's talking about. He's been around for a while.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but I think it's the other way around. You were my mentor. Can I invite the panel, the next panel? So you can stay. I will start. Ladies and gentlemen, revered industry leaders, esteemed participants and distinguished guests, good morning, and welcome to our forum titled Preparing for Net Zero. Shipping is a vital trade artery which is actually a pivotal player in our fight against climatic change. Joining us today is a constellation of leading experts representing shipping companies and industry pioneers. The way they are seated is Mr. Dimitris Vastarouchas, Chief Operating Officer and Vice President of Danaos Corporation, Mr. Basil Sakellis, who is replacing Alex Hadjipateras, who unfortunately got sick. Mr. Sakellis is the CEO of Alassia Newships Management. Dr. Loukas Barmparis, President of Safe Bulkers, and last but not least, Professor and Academician Konstantinos Arcoumanis. Today we gather not to lament, but to chart a sustainable pathway towards decarbonization. We are going to navigate through the challenges and complexities of decarbonization. So buckle up and let's begin our journey. I would like to ask Mr. Vastarouchas, what are the operational measures that can be implemented to improve the energy efficiency of existing ships? This is a critical question because we understand that there are no fuels. These alternative fuels do not exist. So there is a dilemma. What do? We do nothing, or we try to improve the fleet?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for this question, because it is something that troubles our mind long time now, in a very strong effort to find the real solutions, the practical solutions. I think that there are two phases. It is the way I see it. The phase one is the practical optimization of the ships. I think that this subject has been exhausted in previous conferences, discussions. It has been written in texts. We have read about bulbous bow modifications, retrofits of propellers, appendages, paints, and a number of other optimization means. I think that this has been proved in practice. We have to go there eventually. I think it is mature now, the technology. But as I said, it is simply the phase one. I think that most of this work has been done. Then we have the energy management on board. We have seen practices, measures described in SEM 2 and 3, but I believe that here there is a small gap, because some more training needs for our people, both ashore and on board. Because energy management, as simply it sounds, it is not. We need to change the culture actually to see things in a different way. Of course, we have other means that are used on board that will come, new technologies. Every day we read about new things. And we have worked a lot with sea routing systems, which is also very important. I think today sea routing systems have been developed satisfactorily. They provide nice savings. And this is the first package. But I would like to concentrate on the phase 2. The phase 2 is a joint action. My experience is coming from the container sector. We do not supply fuels. We have our clients to do so. And I see it as a unique opportunity to develop this joint effort. And why I'm telling this? Because from one side we have digitalization and we collect so many data, we have Internet of Things, we optimize, we create algorithms, now we have artificial intelligence in an effort to reduce the extra power demand increase. And this is very important because we are talking about optimization, we are talking about the use of biodiesel to save, let's say, 15%, 20%, 5% fuels. However, a lack in monitoring or fast reaction might result to 30% power increase. And here is the point that we have to work closely with our clients. Why? Because we need to work together to optimize speeds, to optimize and analyze the legs, to see what is the percentage of fuel that will be used. But most important, and this is the highlight of this discussion, I think, in my message, is to find a solution for the cleaning process, the hull cleaning process. This is a real headache because how to decide what is really necessary for the ship? We have very, very advanced system, but what is bad? 2%, 3%, 5%, 10%. If you are, let's say, slow, you pay the penalty. If you are fast, you destroy the ship. If you have long-time charter, it's easier to find a solution. If you have a spot market and let's say a voyage charter, then it is totally different because the other wants to do his job, but then the ship is useless. So I think this is the most important thing, to find ways and work towards an amicable solution and a plan that will be mutually agreed when and how to clean ship. This is number one priority for us. And last but not least, we have to see about the necessary cultural enhancement, because we might want to share data. We have transparent sharing of data through online systems, etc. We might want to find a solution with some people there, but one guy is enough if he wants to prove something to someone else to destroy and ruin all this effort. And in that case, the reliability, the trust, and the goodwill will be lost. I think this is the biggest challenge.
Thank you very much. Following the thorough reply by Mr. Vastarouchas, I would like to come to Basil, and I'd like to ask, is there anything else that you apply at Alassia to achieve this target beyond what was mentioned by Mr. Vastarouchas?
First of all,
Do you run a different type of ships?
That's right, yes. First of all, on behalf of my principal, Nicholas and John, and myself, obviously I'd like to thank the organizers for the invitation. And also a quick disclaimer, I was a student at Imperial College when Professor Arcoumanis was a professor, so I hope I won't embarrass you too much today with what I have to say. I'll be given, I guess, the opportunity to embarrass myself a little bit more when we talk about alternative fuels, so I'll try to keep this one very short, particularly since Mr. Vastarouchas was very clear in his response. So I will try to reply very quickly with 5 words and 1 sentence. The 5 words are route, trim, speed, cleaning, and monitoring. And the 1 sentence is much closer collaboration between all the stakeholders in shipping, particularly between charters and owners. This, I think, is what is going to help the most from an operational point of view. And one very quick comment as well. I'm very glad that you chose, Dr. Kokarakis, to start with this question, because I think it is maybe the most important one. We have to see what we can do about the existing ships. And to make the argument, I'll take it to the extreme. If none of us did nothing for the next 20, 30 years, and magically we were able to press a button on the 31st of December 2049 and convert the whole world, not just shipping, to zero CO2 emissions. If you believe environmentalists, we will have already destroyed the world completely. So we need to do something right now with our existing ships.
Thank you very much, Basil. We have another student of Professor Arcoumanis. We come to Dr. Barmparis. So, Loukas, what other innovative procedures? I know your company is pioneering in their operations. What other, if any, you apply in your fleet? Do you want to say us something more on that?
Hello to everybody. Yes, I would like to make also, I mean, we worked quite thoughtfully on what we should do each time, so we have measures towards improving the fleet efficiency, which includes hull paints and that, as Mr. Vastarouchas just said before, noting also that quite often the hull cleaning is not efficient, and there are no standards for that. But having done all this, we have achieved substantial in the scope of improvement, reductions of fuel. I mean, after our dry dockings, which ranges towards from 7 to 10%, which is not that bad, but the scope of the scope of the reduction of fuel consumption and improving the energy efficiency is not so limited. I mean, we would expect substantial changes, especially after 2030, and nor biofuels nor any improvements in vessels will help us on that respect. So, I mean, probably you know that our company has already contracted a couple of methanol dual fuel vessels. There are specific thought process behind that, because we know that fuels are, I mean, we have several options, but not all of them are quite mature. So for, I mean, hydrogen, ammonia, etc. We believe that together with a number of early movers in this methanol dual fuel engines, we will be able to take it, to apply them, and we'll be able to use them for a lesser carbon footprint. I don't know if I said many things, but I need to stop now.
You gave me the lead now to ask Professor Arcoumanis the $1 million question. I have also a $2 million question, but it's the next one. Out of the lot of fuels, alternative fuels, low or zero carbon fuels that we have, which ones are the most promising, including technologies, Professor Arcoumanis? What is your opinion? Dr. Barmparis mentioned methanol. I presume he meant green methanol, because we look at the well-to-wake.
Before I respond or try to respond, let me thank Nikos for the invitation, Mr. Hajiwan for the hospitality, and just to declare that I'm proud about my ex-students. No comments about that.
Ditto.
Coming to this issue that we are all facing, let's first set some criteria in order to attempt to evaluate them. The first is experience, maturity, availability of the fuel, because that immediately turns the direction in probably one way. The second is the two new regulations that EUTS and FuelEU are bringing in, and MEPC 81 will also bring, which is life cycle analysis. And I'd like to say 2 words about it, because this is a scientific point, but very important practically. Up to now, when we're talking about emissions, we're looking from the tank to what is exhausted in the atmosphere. This will stop. And from now on, the consideration will be from well to wheel in cars, or from well to wake, which takes into account all the process from production up to the exhaust. That changes a lot. And in particular, it's going to help, in my view, the LNG in particular, which is the fuel that has a lot of money has been invested. It is available in about 190 ports worldwide. It's the only dual fuel engine that is working well. So it's something that we cannot simply reject. And what is the objection that has been raised by the scientific community? That there are so many leakages from production up to the exhaust that we need to take into account. Second, that methane, which is the dominant component of LNG, is having a major role in the overheating of the planet, and it's a long term. It stays for a long time. It affects the temperature of the planet. So this is one point that the new regulations on life cycle analysis will focus, and already there are significant reductions in the system from production to the exhaust to reduce it, and above all, the engines that are now available to burn LNG, especially the ones that are working on the diesel cycle, the high pressure ones rather than the Otto cycle, are producing much less methane slip. So out of all that, LNG is attracting immediately, should attract our attention. The second interesting fuel is ammonia. If you look at the scientific publications and many operational results and comments, it's by far the fuel that is considered to be about 40 to 50% in the energy mix in 2040 to 2050, despite all the problems that we can discuss. Hydrogen, the best prediction talk about 20-25% in the energy mix. So ammonia, despite the fact it's so toxic, despite the fact that it's the community perception is questionable, despite the fact that we may face crew issues, refusing to get into ships burning ammonia and all that, is still very popular because of many scientific advantages. Now, if the new dual fuel engine that is going to be available by the end of the year, early 25, is successful, then ammonia will start being considered more favorably, because it is so well known as lubricant and in many applications widely used around the world. So I'll stick to those. Methanol comes after, biofuels, limited quantities, but very well placed to be used as pilot fuels in dual fuel engines, irrespective of the fuel. So,
Thank you very much for your thorough reply. I would like to ask Dr. Barmparis another question, the $2 million question. would you go for retrofitting an existing vessel or new building? The problem we have here is that today we have no fuels, no green fuels. They are not available to the quantities we want, and the prices are forgiven. I mean, not financially feasible. So what do we do? Do we wait? It is a problem. So retrofit might be a later solution, but whatever is built today, after 25 years, will be here, 2050. So it seems that about 20% of the fleet in 2050 will run on fossil fuels. So what do you think,
Thank you again. One comment on Mr. Professor Arcoumanis' points about ammonia, which I fully respect. Of course, the advantage of methanol is that today we have methanol dual fuel engines, while we don't have ammonia dual fuel engines, which is
coming.
It's coming, yes, but okay, it's coming, but we have not seen all the consequences at the end. So it will be let's say a more towards 2040 fuel rather than let's say 2030 fuel. And we have gathered quite substantial attention from many companies towards green methanol or methanol. The second point is retrofitting. Yes, we cannot. The only thing that I can see in retrofitting is carbon capture. And what that is when you install, let's say, equipment on board in order to capture the carbon that is emitted to the atmosphere, you pressurize it and then you submit it to the port authority. So this will be a solution in the future, although still the cost is quite high. So we need further research on this respect, but I believe that this will play a big role on the decarbonization of the industry. On the other hand, new builds. I mean, the new builds, what we have here is the phase 3 new builds, and this is what you can order. You cannot order something else. Or even, you can even order a dual fuel methanol ship, but you cannot order something which is more efficient. So we have selected to order phase 3 vessels which are very, very efficient compared to anyone else. So we will, compared to the existing fleet, I mean, in the dry bulk sector, about 11,000 vessels, and these vessels, the dual fuel vessels, will be maybe 100 or 150. So we will be the most efficient vessels out there. Of course, we need at a certain point of time to do more research in carbon capture. And carbon capture presents also problems in existing vessels, because you need to find you need to clean the exhaust gases from particulate matter and other things. You need to install equipment which is quite large. You need to pressurize the CO2, which is not that bad, but you need also to have the tanks for this CO2. All these have to be installed in one vessel, which has specific dimensions and specific areas. So this is also a challenge and a cost. And we have not resolved yet the problem what we'll do with the CO2. Okay, you can, let's say, dump it somewhere in one in one old let's say source, but there are not yet solutions on that. But I think this will play a big role.
Synthetic ammonia is cheaper than methanol. That's why Professor Arcoumanis placed it number 2. So what about Alassia? What do you say, Basil, on this?
In the question between the retrofits and
right.
Yes, there is this other theory out there as well, that to build a new building ship and to scrap an old ship is very harmful to the environment as well. So perhaps there is an argument to prolonging the life of the existing ships, and that of course also speaks to retrofitting with all the things that we have discussed here, and I also am a proponent, if you like, of carbon capture. Although in studying carbon capture recently, the other thing that we have realized internally is that the only way for the ship to get credit for the carbon that has been captured is for the CO2 to then be permanently stored, sequestered. If it is sold on for future commercial use, then the ship doesn't get the credit, and it is whoever uses it then that will get the credit. If it is to be stored, of course, that increases the cost even further. So, as always, the devil is in the detail. But to make also the argument for new buildings as well, I appreciate that whatever ship is built today probably will be here for the next 20, 25 years, but the highest quality ships that are being built today, as Mr. Tsavliris very eloquently said earlier, are 30+% more efficient than the high quality existing vessels, not poor quality existing vessels. So that means that if you take delivery of a conventional fuel, high quality conventional fuel ship today, and you take advantage of all those future technologies, and we haven't touched upon perhaps wind assisted propulsion and other things, maybe you can get to more than 50-60% CO2 reduction until the, sort of, for lack of a better term, the dust settles on the alternative fuels.
We will keep the legacy of the fossil fuels with the carbon capture. And let's come to Mr. Vastarouchas, bringing in mind that his type of vessels, containers, last much more than 25 years.
Yeah.
They last 40 years because they are very expensive.
Oh.
Even if not as expensive as the cargo, as their cargo.
Yeah, we see it in a different way because we do not have access or reward with the fuels. We cannot secure fuels. It is not in our industry. That is something that is carried out by our clients. So first of all, we have to be flexible. So number one priority before answering the question retrofit or new building is clearly having eco ships, either building eco-design ships or improve the ships, as we replied already in the first question. This is first priority for us. It can reduce immediately the emissions at some extent. But 2030 and afterwards is close enough, so we have to consider also the future. Now the answer here is not black or white. We need vessels to be built with engines because always some people, they have to shape lines. There is always the puzzle with chicken and egg. Nobody will develop fuels at big extent if there are no ships. Nobody will build many ships with engines equipped from the building stage if there is no fuel available or infrastructure available. So we need the first movers to shape lines. In our industry, that is coming from the liner companies. Now, there is something else that we have to take into account, the business model, because that plays a significant role in this decision. In the past, let's say 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when we had a new building project, there was a charter, let's say 10 years, 12 years, 15 years in advance, so you could take decisions where the ship will go, with whom you will work, and we could decide about fuels, etc. Now we build ships on a speculation basis. It means that we cannot be committed to a certain type of fuel before there is maturity and clear positioning in the industry. For us, there are some certain parameters that push the company towards the solution of retrofit. All our new buildings, now we have 12 ships on order, are methanol or even methanol and ammonia ready. And we believe that the model is to have eco ships ready to be retrofitted. We need, let's say, a year notice, 2 months time to make the retrofit. The vessel on the paper is almost ready. And why this? Because that depends on the area that ship will be deployed tomorrow. We strongly believe that will be a segmentation in the market regarding the fuels. It will not be a unique fuel available there. So where we are going to deploy our ships. And what will be the price that time that we will have the availability and the necessity to retrofit the ships. At the same time, there is also a kind of, let's say, threat, competitiveness by carbon capture. You know very well, and we had this discussion that Danaos tries to develop her own carbon capture system. There is a threat there, because if there is a successful carbon capture system that, with a new technology, overcome the existing difficulties, neutralizing the CO2, all these systems, all these fuels will be useless. So there is always a threat. And last but not least, I visit again the very, very sensitive matter of the crew training. If we decide to build a ship and equip the ship with a specific engine, we need to train our crew, because they are not familiar with such kind of operations. What if at the end we have to move to another fuel, if it is possible? So all this time, all this effort will be lost. So we decided in the, let's say, notification period, which is 1 year, when we will be sure about what is going to be done, to carry out the training with our people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would like to come to Professor Arcoumanis and ask him you want to comment?
Yes, about carbon capture, which gives many hopes. It's nothing more than another scrubber. And theoretically, scientifically, to use a bad fuel in order to keep them going and reduce the impact doesn't make sense. But in the case of CO2 capture, it can reduce carbon emissions. It cannot eliminate. The efficiency will never be too high. But what is now emerging is a number of possible applications of using the carbon for either commercial reasons rather than dumping it under the ground. Only this makes sense. Yes. And there are a number of small companies looking at creating either fuels or lubricants out of carbon, and that's the reasonable direction, rather than using another scrubber and dumping it in the ground. That's my.
Can you, Loukas?
If I may also make a comment, one question is why should you install a carbon capture system on board while you can have a carbon capture nearby fossil fuel electricity production factory which can capture it and without any problem. And as making a comment which is very interesting to your point that ammonia is cheaper, and why don't you use this CO2 which is captured to produce let's say green methanol? That could be also one solution. And one point also about green methanol, we need to also to assess what is the cost of the vessel, not only of the fuel altogether. So these are the two
And methanol does not need abatement equipment to get NOx.
Yes.
You can use water.
Yes, and also you don't need, I mean, ammonia should be pressurized, so you need additional, let's say, refrigeration capabilities.
I am a known enemy of ammonia as a fuel.
Yes.
But I would like to very, very shortly, if Professor Arcoumanis, what is your opinion about, I'm not going to scare the audience and say nuclear power, but I'm going to call it atomic battery. Do you think that there is a future for shipping with this type of propulsion? Atomic battery. Not battery.
You can call it whatever you like.
We don't want to scare the people.
The fact is that Is that, yeah, thank you. Existing internal combustion engines can burn whatever fuel is offered, can do a great job. The efficiency gradually goes up, although it is reaching a peak. But there are signs that the successor of the conventional internal combustion engine will be the small nuclear reactors. Now, a number of technological issues still exist. People are afraid of the concept of nuclear energy because they think that it's like the systems that exist. The small nuclear reactors have nothing to do with that. It's completely different concept, very safe, compact, many advantages. They can last for about 25, 30 years in one top, like the life of a ship. Many advantages. What I see as very critical is if the production starts, and because the initial investment would be very significant, the operational cost would be much less. If it reaches a stage of significant initial investment, then it will go. Then everybody will jump on it. But that is not, will never happen before 35, 40. It fits a lot of checks. But of course, still, and in Greece, the Prime Minister recently said, no, we are not going to go towards nuclear energy because Greece we have earthquakes and so on, but earthquakes have nothing to do with small nuclear reactors. They are not affecting it. So yes, there are advantages. Nobody should be scared. Let's see if the community will invest in small nuclear reactors outside the number of laboratories that are now involved in it.
Thank you very much, and I would like to close with a last question, which actually please reply with a yes or no. It is kind of a poll. I'm not going to poll the audience, although I would love to, but in the interest of time, I would like to ask the panel, do you think that the target of zero emissions in 2050 is feasible? We start with Mr. Vastarouchas, a yes or no. John?
Yes.
Yes. Basil?
No.
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 I'll be happy to answer.
Yes or no?
I'll be happy to answer when IMO and EU converge and agree. From that moment onwards, we can give an answer.
Okay, I am a no. So what about the audience?
By hand raising, yes.
Yes, hand raising, yes. Who believes that it is feasible? I don't see many hands. Just one hand. This is Yorgopoulos.
Say no, say no.
What about no? I agree with you guys. So, as our forum panel draws to a close, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to an insightful panel and attending, engaged audience. Your commitment to charting a sustainable, greener course for the maritime industry is commendable. Remember that the future is not written in the stars, but it is charted by the hands that dare to steer. May your compass always point towards greener horizons and be driven by fair winds and following seas. Bon voyage, and thank you.
Thank you. A quick question. to Mr. Vastarouchas actually, because Danaos Shipping is a very advanced Greek company. We know for the last 30 years, 90% of Greek shipping relies on your software systems that John Koustas has developed. And also big supporter of Cyprus flag. He added 8 Cape-sized Barmparis the last 6 months in the Cypriot registry. We thank him for that very much. So the question is to you, because you mentioned the methanol-ready ships, how the engine will be retrofitted on a methanol-ready ship or will be converted? Because I remember in the past with the scrubbers, the shipyards were selling a scrubber-ready ship, and we asked what you mean scrubber-ready, and it was nothing included. Just you had to pay $100,000 for nothing. I mean, how much it costs to be methanol-ready when the yard sells it, and what it includes?
Yeah. First of all, we have done extensive discussions with both major engine makers, VGT and MAN. The retrofit kit for the engines that will be installed in some projects like MESC project or what you are going to do, for example, will be followed by retrofit kits. And the retrofit kit actually for the ship is within, inside the engine room, nothing special, just some adjustments on the engine, double wall pipes, let's say firefighting and detection system, that's all. The remaining is isolated in an external part. We, for example, can sacrifice half cargo hold. We can build hull tanks. We do not need something special. We have already designed them. We never have 100% utilization of cargo, so we have the space, we have the pipes, we have the allocate area for the bunker station. We have taken the consensus by the engine maker that we simply retrofit, making some adjustment on the engine. That's all. So it's very practical for us, because our main concern that I didn't say before is that all these that we are talking about, green fuels, in theory are very good. But if we do not have clean and cheap electric power production, how to have green fuels? This is my point.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. One thing I'd like to mention as well, just to comment on Dinos Arcoumanis' remark, very Domiro, quite daring, because the situation which we have here, if I may say so, is that the issue between the conflict between the European Union and the IMO, obviously it's well known, it's been going on for years, like cat and dogs. The problem here is that that whole situation, that friction or that disparity between those two organizations has created another scenario, the scenario of the business of unresolved problems, that effectively in the last 5-10 years there have been a lot of business which has been created which are based on the disparity and the fact that they cannot find solutions. So even though I can fully commend Dinos what he mentioned, that there can be a scenario of having to comply with the target 2050, is that friction or that disparity, the lack of synergy, if I may say so, between the European Union and the IMO, which is the big, what I call Achilles tendon. So let's be hopeful that it will be resolved. But as I say, the scenario is we also have to resolve the fact that there have been too many business which have been created which are based on the fact that they want to find no solution. Like the legal field to a certain extent, the science of unresolved problems. Well, thank you, Dino. Thank you very much.
The European community, actually, I would like to say that participates in the IMO proceedings. I was a little bit scared by what Mr. Kokarakis mentioned with various regional regulations coming, and our hope and pray is that in 2027, when IMO will establish the market-based measures, the global fuel standard and the carbon pricing, the rest of the world will withdraw their regulations, including EU.
We're going through very controversial times. Anyway, Yanni, I want to thank you very much for moderating this panel, and thank you everybody. It's been a great panel, and applause from the audience as well for giving us this.